Hey, what's up, guys? This is Mr. Davidian, and today we are looking at practicing some satire. Now, on the AP Lang test this year, you probably, it's going to be crazy. You're going to have 45 minutes, and it seems kind of stressful. But if we practice some satire, then you guys will, help you guys get buff. Today we'll be looking at C.S. Lewis's Screwtape Letters. It was about one older demon talking to a younger demon, and it's in satire format, so obviously it's not real, it's just figurative. So we're going to talk about how to approach it and just get into it. It'll take about 30 minutes, so let's get to it. All right, if you guys don't know, you will be writing a rhetorical analysis in just a few more days. And if you're watching this video in 2020, you guys will be obviously doing these things on the rhetorical analysis, writing a nice detailed thesis. You guys have to quote explain, and obviously refer back to the rhetorical situation, including the writer, audience, the context, the author's purpose, maybe the message or the seriousness or importance of the topic. Obviously, you're going to quote explain, and refer back to this rhetorical situation a bunch of times. And then obviously we got to get sophisticated. You guys got to throw in your own figurative language, your own style, complex sentence structure, maybe some metaphors, analogies, maybe some allusions, historical facts, maybe get into some deeper tensions or complexities in the text, maybe some deeper meanings, whatever you can do to get that sophistication point. All right. And I'll give you guys opportunities to do that today. As a reminder, obviously we talk about all these different things in previous videos, so this is just to jog your memory. Obviously we're going to quote explain, use effects, verbs, and talk about the author and all that cool stuff. You guys can take a look at page 11 in your workbook. I would definitely have this page ready, and we'll talk about what other types of notes and things you can write down or print, or what pages you should have marked for the AP Lang exam. You guys, it's open book, open note, so definitely what pages you could use. I'll try to give you guys some tips. Now today we're going to be looking at the Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. They were 31 satiric letters written by him, published weekly in a British newspaper called The Guardian in 1941. They are fictitiously penned by a veteran demon named Screwtape to his nephew Wormwood, another like a younger novice, inexperienced demon. So you have an older demon talking to a younger demon. And obviously the goal as we analyze this satirical passage is to figure out what was C.S. Lewis's purpose. Now there's one way to do that. First, we can summarize the arguments that Screwtape makes, and then we can think backwards, because obviously if it's a demon, you don't want to do what the demon says. So satirically, C.S. Lewis is trying to imply the opposite, or he's trying to imply some sort of truth that we can arrive at if we just think backwards, or just think what his intended purpose was when he said what he said through Screwtape. So take a few moments, read the passage. There's 2 different slides, about 90 different lines. Take a moment, just read through it quickly, and then I'm going to help you guys write it. Okay, now hopefully you guys have enough information to write your thesis. Hopefully when you guys read, you just read very quickly. Don't worry too much about taking notes. Today we're just going to get right into the thesis. Now, because we read the prompt, there is so much information in the prompt, we have enough information to actually write our thesis. So here's a sample hook. One of the best ways to teach a difficult topic is to use an anecdote, analogy, story, or even a cartoon illustration. Or cartoon illustrations. In the Screwtape Letters, 1941, written satirically from the perspective of a senior demon named Screwtape to his nephew Wormwood, C.S. Lewis, and then obviously this is all information described in the prompt. We kind of added a couple little things here. C.S. Lewis describes the invisible demonic forces and deception that we humans face daily, a topic that British readers of The Guardian would no doubt find fascinating. We are going to stop here. We are not going to add any more to the thesis. I want you guys to skip a few lines. We're going to jump right into the body paragraphs. Now, this is a little bit different style, because normally when I have you guys write, you guys will detail all the different strategies the author uses and maybe the purpose and some higher level thoughts. The problem is sometimes you don't know all that right at the beginning after you're done reading. So maybe one trick is to go write the body paragraphs and then just quote explain, quote explain, quote explain. Just get a bunch of writing down. We'll come back and we'll finish the thesis when we're done. So that's one strategy I want to teach you guys. You guys have enough information. As you guys you took all this prompt and you threw it into your thesis. You guys have enough information. We'll come back to this. So let's just get right into the beginning. Now, if you guys read, obviously you can hear the tone. You can hear this older demon give tips on how to deceive who? Humans. And obviously, what is the goal? To get these humans to go into the Father's house, and obviously, if you're a demon, your father is the devil. So therefore, you're trying to get people to go to hell, pretty much. All right. So let's get right to it. From the start, Screwtape mentions, why did I put apostrophe S right here? I don't know what this is. Let's cross that out. Yeah, that's weird. Wormwood's patient, line 2, and how to keep him out of the enemy's clutches. The enemy here is who? You know who? God. Therefore, Lewis is, what do you guys think Lewis is doing here? His purpose. If enemy is God, he's trying to show maybe the wiles and tricks that enemy uses against humans unknowingly. So let's write it. It says, therefore, Lewis is inversely showing the methods that demons use to keep souls from heaven. The first being materialism. And obviously that was a quote from line 4. We're going to keep going. So right now we're just quoting and explaining. So obviously the next thing we'll probably talk about is argument. Let's go ahead and continue different philosophies. The weekly press we'll probably throw in later. And jargon. Right there, line number 21. Screwtape then warns that allowing humans to argue about what is true or false opens up their reasoning, adding to only allow opinions like, okay, I'm sorry, this was really weird written, but you know what I mean. He says true or false, I believe in line 18. He says, doesn't think of doctrines as primarily true or false, but as academic, practical, outworn, and a bunch of qualified adjectives. So we can kind of see the difference here. True or false, black and white, right and wrong, wise or unwise. So Screwtape is telling his younger demon, Wormwood, hey, do not get them arguing about true and false, because those are absolute statements. You want to try to get people into more qualified and ambiguous and subjective conversations, opinions. Do not get into this right or wrong type stuff. What are you doing? So the remedy, and we'll get into some remedies. The senior demon suggests using secular philosophies, line 17, and fancy vocabulary, line 21, which is what we already said. We're just quoting and explaining, to help souls stay confused. Regarding the context of Britain, now we're jumping out of the text for a second. I want you guys to take a moment in Edpuzzle and write down some commentary. Okay, if he's talking about philosophies, if he's talking about, this is Lewis, talking about philosophies and jargon. The word jargon means fancy vocabulary, high-level scientific terms that just sound impressive, but technically sometimes they just make things a little more confusing. It makes you sound intellectual, but also, we talked about this in class, the higher level vocabulary that you use, the more unclear, ambiguous, and confusing a topic becomes, or an argument becomes. People get lost. And so to impress people, if you're using jargon, then obviously it becomes confusing. And he's telling demons, hey, get these people to love high-level vocabulary, impress each other with their vocabulary and philosophies, because it keeps them confused and they won't end up finding simple truths. So right now I want you guys to talk about Britain. What could be happening in Britain during the 1940s? Obviously, C.S. Lewis, he went to Harvard and he went to Oxford and he went to Cambridge, I believe. And so definitely you have these British universities and obviously that context. Add some commentary on what you think he could be implying. All right, so I'll give you guys my 2 cents. I just said maybe Lewis is ridiculing the deception in some academic or political circles. Maybe there's a lot of politics, obviously in England. Who's right, wrong. What people they should follow, what laws they should make. Maybe in academia, the different high-level colleges they have there, people are proud at their degrees, things like that. So maybe he's taking a poke at them. C.S. Lewis even mentions a third weapon, the press. Line 14. Here, Lewis hints that daily news is a distraction, and obviously you can add your own commentary at this time about the news. Go. All right, so for me, I just added a quick something we can all relate to after this COVID-19 hysteria. It obviously just relates to everyday life, higher level thoughts, but we're going to move on. Thus, Lewis gives readers a behind-the-scenes look into a hidden world of demonic tactics to watch out for. And then obviously he mentions that we're going to repeat the tactics again. Nonstop news, big vocabulary, and backwards thinking. Now I want you guys to add in your own adjectives that sound better than nonstop news, big vocabulary, and backwards thinking. All right, so this is what I really put. Automatic, semi-automatic news, maybe assaulting news, nonstop, a barrage of news. That sounds pretty good. Flattering vocabulary and intolerantly intolerant thinking. I don't know. Throw some cool stuff in there, but you guys can have your own creativity on that. Okay. That is the philosophy of the future. That's the sort of thing he cares about. The trouble about argument is that it moves the whole struggle into the enemy's territory, into the own enemy's ground. In that case, the enemy here is God. So he can argue too. And pretty much we're going to talk about that. And we'll talk a little bit about fix the patient's attention on the stream. Teach him to call it real life and don't let him ask what it means by real. Remember, he's not like you. And then we're going to talk, pretty much he just says, keep him fixed on the ordinary, real life. Do not get him thinking about arguments, true, false, and stuff like that. So let's get into it. In lines 27 through 33, C.S. Lewis hints at an interesting thought that argument awakens a patient's reasoning, and reasoning could lead them to truth about God. No, demons can't have this. And I encourage you guys to add your own commentary. My commentary was, and to remedy such disaster, the devil suggests getting the human to fix his attention on the sensual stream of real life, the here and now, not eternity, etc. So obviously I threw the word essential in there. Sensual is a reference to the senses that he mentions. I think he mentions sense experiences right here in line number 39. So add your own commentary. Okay, can you relate? What do you think Mr. Lewis is trying to indicate, teach, advocate, suggest, emphasize by talking about getting the demon to focus his pupils' attention on real life, the here and now? What do you think? Go. All right, so we can all relate to the real life, the here and now, the distractions, the busyness. So I wrote, as a reader, this point hits home. It shows how the busyness of the now distracts us from thinking about important topics like eternity, which would convict his readers at their, and I don't know what the blink would be, but just talk about the readers a little bit, convict readers about maybe their materialism, maybe their lifestyle, maybe their busyness. So we'll move on. The goal right now is to just jot down as many quotes and explanations as you can, and then we'll try to get into some deeper stuff as we move on. On a side note, when the demon suggests that God is inferior to our Father below, we not only chuckle at the notion, this is line 32, by the way. He says, he is greatly inferior. Wait, let's rephrase that. The devil is greater, and God is inferior to the devil in terms of arguing. Who's a better arguer? This demon says the devil is a better arguer than God, who created everything. So what do you guys think? So I wrote down, but we also learned something new. Devils lie and believe lies. Look at this. Screwtape is saying that the devil's a better arguer than God. And so what C.S. Lewis is suggesting is that demons lie, and they believe lies. And that's kind of an interesting notion. But I added some commentary there. I said, so are people who lie demonic? It seems that way sometimes. And I just kind of threw in sort of like a different level question, maybe a rhetorical question regarding the topic. And for you as a writer, you guys can get into your own ideas. You can get into your own reactions to ideas from the text. But then obviously go back to the text, move on, and get back into the text. Now I want you guys to take what you've learned about what we've learned all the way through lines 1 through 45 and add commentary about the author. Let's get into C.S. Lewis's head a little bit. Why was he writing this? What kind of person is he? What did it take to write this? Write down some commentary about Mr. Lewis. So what I wrote down was, therefore, as Lewis wrote this letter, he had to creatively think like a demon or an evil person. He had to think of the methods and tricks deceivers in all walks of life use, and then present it to help readers like us know what to watch out for. And I thought it just shows us creativity, that he has to act like, he has to create a situation that I can't explain. He has to act like a demon. He has to think if he could listen in on what demons would actually say, he has to creatively imagine that and then write it all down. And then, obviously he's proving some other points as well. So, man, what are his higher level reasons for doing this? Maybe it's to warn people, maybe to, help us watch out for the invisible world that we kind of take for granted, that we don't really see with our natural eyes. Let's move on. It says, and obviously, C.S. Lewis, he's going to talk about religious topics. And so he talks about atheism, but more than that, he says, hey, once upon a time, I had a patient a long time ago. He used to go to the British Museum, and one day he was sitting there. I saw a train of thought in his mind beginning to go the wrong way. And obviously I added all this. Maybe the thought was something about eternity. Is this all life has to offer? Where do we come from? What happens after death? And so obviously all of this is what I added. But it just gives you an idea of what this guy was possibly thinking. But the demon goes on to say, hey, before I knew it, I saw 20 years of my work going down the drain. And before I lost my head and tried to defend myself with arguing, I used a different tactic. I struck instantly at the part of the man which I had best under my control. I suggested that it was just about time he had some lunch. And I'm going to write a happy face right here. It's lunchtime. The enemy presumably made the counter suggestion, no, this is too important. Let's think about this now. But the demon responded, yeah, this is very important. We should talk about it over a full stomach, In fact, it's much too important for the morning. Better to come back after lunch and go at it with a fresh mind. And obviously, what happens? It says that all of a sudden he goes outside. There was a newsboy. There was a bus. Next thing you know, he already forgot about what he was thinking about. And he doesn't go back to these thoughts. And it ends by saying, he is now safe in our Father's house. So let's talk about all that. All right. In this letter, okay, before we forget, we know that anytime we're analyzing a rhetorical passage, we have to look at some of the structural style that the author uses. What kind of diction, what kind of tone, what kind of syntax. So right now, take a moment, write down what type of syntax, diction, and tone do you think Lewis is using? Okay. So I wrote in this letter, the academic diction, because this demon sounds very academic, and complex sentence structure by the demon are clever and scarily intelligent. And that's sort of my quick explanation, just real fast. Yet, they're not as powerful as Lewis's ideas and satiric illustrations that truly make the reader ponder these sophisticated topics. So what I'm saying is that his biggest weapon in this entire letter is his creative satire in terms of the demon talking to another demon. I mean, it just gives us this sort of invisible, hidden world insight on the possible conversations demons have. I mean, I think just his creativity is his most powerful weapon in all of this. But obviously, the sophisticated topics that he gets into. So far, he's talked about the press. He's talked about academia. He's talked about jargon, and how sometimes, they're deceitful. And now he's getting into a whole different tactic that sometimes we get into these modes of having high level thought processes. And then all of a sudden we have a more physical, sensual, fleshly desire to get some lunch, to have some food. And next thing you know, we stop thinking about those high level topics. And so let's get into it. It says, for example, in lines 47 through 75, and we're going to summarize a lot. He uses his own anecdote. He tells a story of a soul he almost lost. So right now, maybe add your own quotes and explanations for this entire section about the food. So I didn't write that section because obviously it's pretty simple. The guy, instead of using argument as a defense, he used something better. He used the flesh. He used hunger. And next thing you know, the person isn't thinking about the argument anymore. So that's sort of a catch-22. Demons you don't have to argue with the demon. They'll just tell you it's time for lunch. So it says here, however, the shocking point is in line 75, that after tricking the soul to go to lunch and forget about the important topic of eternity, the soul is now safe in our Father's house. So that's our quote. We want to be specific in our quotes, but we still need our explanation. So here we go. We are blessed to know that this person is safe and comfortable. And wait, what? Now this is my own creativity right here. So obviously it sounds like this person is safe, but you can't believe a demon. So let's see what the reality of it is. No, when the demon says our Father's house, he is implying the soul is safe in hell. The opposite of safe. To us, the soul is in an unspeakable torment. Yet, from a demon's perspective, this is ingenious job security. And so obviously I'm having a little fun with the topic. Demons want job security. They want to take people to hell. They want to be, keep their economy going. They want to have some job security. They want to take souls to hell. But we're when we're reading this, we can't take it literally. He is not safe in our Father's house. He is unsafe in hell. So obviously you could add your own commentary or humor at that point. But obviously adding humor just helps your writing stay sophisticated and stay creative. All right, so I'm going to quickly summarize the rest. It says, at heart. I don't know if it says at the heart. I'm going to say at heart. Line 75 satirically jolts the reader because Lewis is preaching that the end result of a secular life away from God is hell. And that is something we should ponder the next time we feel hungry. Now, I thought that was kind of interesting because to me, I wanted to reiterate the topic of hunger because we all face it. And I think Lewis knows that. Lewis knows that we've all had these high-level conversations. We all get hungry. We all forget those conversations and we move on with our life. And so this is tough, man. Every time we're hungry, yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Let's conclude the letter. We're writing body paragraphs. We're trying to quote and explain. We'll go back to the thesis, but let's just get it all down. At the end, he says that this work has been going on for centuries, and we'll talk about that first. And then obviously, he says, do not attempt to use science, the real sciences, and we'll talk about that. He says, yeah, you can use economics and sociology, the wishy-washy kind of like, anyone can have an opinion on those type of topics, but don't let him use real science. Let him just focus on the real life. And then obviously he says, your job is to fuddle him, make him think he knows it all, and obviously keep him distracted. And then he ends the letter by saying, don't think it's your job to teach, you dumb. Your job isn't to teach, demon. Your job is to distract. All right, so let's finish this off. Line 77 reminds Wormwood and us that demons have used these processes against humans for centuries. Now, you have to add your own commentary. If Lewis is implying that demons have been around for centuries and they've been using these tactics for centuries, namely the press, the hunger, the wacky sciences, and also jargon, things like that. What does that tell you about demons? Give us your own thoughts. What is Lewis trying to imply here about centuries? What is the effect he's trying to have on the audience? So what I said was, this reveals that demons are experienced and they have honed their tactics for centuries. A scary thought for us to realize demons are highly intelligent and have been largely successful in tricking people to go to hell. And we can add in, that sometimes we think demons are just fleshly, but man, what if demons are very intelligent? And I guess if we added more about the audience, this would definitely cause the audience to think about, are demons that intelligent? What kind of enemy are we facing? If there is an unseen enemy that Lewis is implying here. So we move on. Still, Screwtape advises his younger demon to keep his subject from real science, maybe like biology and cosmology. Cosmology is the origin of the universe. He says, no, stay away from those sciences, which Lewis hints may help souls find spiritual truths. Instead, the demon suggests lesser sciences like economics, sociology, culture, psychology, art, things like that. Things that are kind of a little more, fun oriented, so society oriented, things like that. And then last but not least, it says, meaning use anything that keeps souls from important truths, like, and I'm going to have you guys add in your own simile right here. We want to try to make sure we're adding in our own figurative language. Make your own simile. If we're trying to keep souls from important truths, keep them distracted, give me an analogy. Give me a simile. If you're trying to keep souls distracted, I think a good simile could be keep them going around like in a maze, keep them maybe running around like a rat in a maze, chasing the aroma of academic noise. And I just threw in noise because I like it, but you could say academic degrees, you could say academic cheese, you could say whatever you want, but I like the rat in a maze simile. All right, we got to conclude this. So obviously, Lewis is trying to let's just go into the final quote. Subsequently, the letter resigns by repeating the main point. A demon's job is to distract or fuddle the human, keep the human believing he knows it all, and not from concrete evidence, concrete facts, and truths. So you can finish off that. Now, this is your final commentary. I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to use your own sort of like higher level thinking, maybe statistics, maybe facts, maybe history, maybe metaphors, and just really get into the author's purpose. What is the author's purpose for the readers and for us in general? You can use this sort of sentence frame if you'd like. All right, so let's assume that we wrote C.S. Lewis's true intent in this satiric, demonically enthused letter is to show us the hidden world, show us the enemy that we face on an unknown level, and to help us to be a little more conscious of sort of the tricks used against us, whether it's society, whether it's actual demons, whether it's politics, whether it's education, whether it's the newsboy, anything like that. And maybe in general, just to keep us as humans to focus on more important things, to prioritize, more important conversations, family, and, truths in our lives instead of sort of the things that just are just going to be abstract or sensual. All right, so let's assume we're done. Congratulations. Let's go back to our thesis for a moment. We did not finish that last part of the thesis. And so if you have time, you're going to have to finalize this last sentence or two. So we did talk about the writer. We did talk about the background. We talked about the summary of what's going on in the letter. We talked about his audience, but we did not talk about the rhetorical devices. So at this time, what devices do you think he uses or doesn't use, and for what purpose? This is the last thing you have to write. All right. So now that we've got done reading the Screwtape Letters, by the time we're done reading, we kind of understand a little bit more about what was going on. So let's just see what we got. Though Lewis uses a provocative tone, educated diction, and complex syntax, his main strategy is creatively using fictitious satire to get into the mind of a fiend and illustrate their crafty thought processes to help warn readers of the invisible labyrinth of secular and spiritual traps they fall into daily. And obviously your last sentence of your entire essay will probably say the same thing. Okay. Wow, congratulations. That's a lot of deep topics, but very good creativity by C.S. Lewis. One thing that we noticed about this type of satire was, let me ask you a question. Was it funny? I mean, if he's using satire, we normally think of satire as sort of this humorous, funny method of writing. But remember, parody, comedy, wit, caricatures, and those type of things, yeah, those tend to be funny. But when you get into The Modest Proposal by Jonathan Swift, or you get into the Screwtape Letters, satire is sort of like this indifferent tone. It's sort of like a serious tone that makes the audience think that what they're saying is literal, when really they have a deeper meaning. They're meaning something opposite. They're meaning they have a deeper level insight. So sometimes satire is humorous, but a lot of times it's just that middle of the road type of tone that it actually sounds confusing. If you guys remember 2009 prompt we wrote about, which was about the environment, it sounded literal. It sounded like this guy, it sounded like there was two different environmental groups arguing with each other, but it wasn't. It was just one guy writing for both sides on how both sides could possibly talk about each other and have an unproductive conversation. So anyway, that was 2009. So this is our third example of satire that was sort of that middle of the road illustrative satire that is just kind of like doesn't have that humorous tone. It just sounds very serious. But obviously, if it's demons writing, hopefully he's not really listening to demons. There's a deeper level. So anyway, that's a lot to get into. But hey, hopefully it prepared you guys for satire. If you face satire on the AP Lang rhetorical analysis, it could be humorous, or it could be very scientific sounding. It could be very normal sounding, but obviously just helping you explain the deeper levels of deeper inferences of what the author is meaning is good practice. So hey, congratulations. See you guys in the next Zoom or Edpuzzle or tutorial. And hope you guys are just getting into what is expected for you in the next couple of days. If you're listening to this in May 2020, go into the practice exams. Obviously you're going to get there early. Go to your practice checklist, check your browser, power cord, and all that. And obviously get your notes ready. See you guys soon. Take care.